Well, hello out there in podcast land, and welcome back to Guilty Pleasures, the show where we celebrate the movies we love despite what critics, public opinion, or even our own God-given sense might tell us. I'm your host, Lou Hare, for the Front Row Network, and welcome to our very first feed-exclusive show. We have our own feed now, and we said we'd be giving you content, so thank you for subscribing to the Guilty Pleasures individual feed, and make sure that you let other people know. And we've got a special one for you. We picked a great one, maybe an all-time great in terms of Guilty Pleasures. It's late November, and Creed 2 has just opened at the box office to hopefully good acclaim. We don't know yet. It's too early to tell when we're recording this, but we decided to go back in time and look at the last time we saw Ivan Drago on the big screen. So tonight we are tackling 1985's Rocky IV. And joining me on the podcast tonight, two regulars to Guilty Pleasures who I'm very excited to dive deep into this movie with. First off, welcome back after an extended hiatus, I guess we'll call it, since the Batman Forever podcast I think we did about this time last year. Please welcome back Sam Weller. How's it going, Sam?
Hey, doing great, Lou. Really excited. As I was telling you before we got on the show, watching this movie back this time has really informed a lot more about what my first conception was, for sure. If you can change, I can change, right?
Everybody can change.
That's right.
All right. And rounding out this panel for this evening, please welcome back a regular to Guilty Pleasures. Welcome back, Christian Kowski. How's it going, Christian?
It's going great, Lou. Thank you very much for asking me to be a part of this. My understanding of late Soviet history has been shaken to its core. I was under the impression that Gorbachev and Reagan were kind of mutually responsible for easing tensions and ending the Cold War, but I was wrong. It was anabolic steroids and Sylvester Stallone. So,
well, good. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad we can give you that history lesson. So, for those of you who might not be familiar with the plot of Rocky IV, a quick sentence.
Sentence.
When his best friend Apollo Creed is killed in the ring, Rocky Balboa takes on Ivan Drago, the Russian super athlete who is responsible. I would say more, but I would then start to rival the amount of dialogue that's in this actual film.
Lou, it's like a beautiful haiku. It's all about economy of space. And I also have to say that to the film's credit, whatever credit we can give here, the runtime feels crisp. This is a fast 90 minutes.
It's a lean movie, dude.
It is as lean as Stallone is.
There's a good 15 minutes at the beginning. That is all the ending, I assume, of the previous movie. And then the credits at the end, it's gotta be, like, as far as like page count goes, 70, 75 pages maybe.
Oh yeah. No, I got stats.
Oh, okay, great.
I got some stats for you guys. So let's mention to it. So you mentioned the runtime. The movie clocks in, yes, at a lean 1 hour and 31 minutes.
Oh my God.
And I'm gonna break that down a little bit. We're just gonna let that sit for a minute, and we'll pile on as we go on. But so this is obviously the fourth in the Rocky franchise. All the main cast has returned, minus Burgess Meredith, whose character dies in Rocky III. So Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire, Carl Weathers, Burt Young, and then of course we get the introduction of Dolph Lundgren as Ivan Drago and Brigitte Nielsen as his wife, Ludmilla Drago, which is a great name.
This is my wife, Borscht. I hope you enjoy her.
So how are we talking about this movie on Guilty Pleasures? Well, this is a very interesting dichotomy. because this is actually the highest grossing film of the entire series. It grossed $300 million worldwide. It is the third highest grossing movie of 1985. $127 million domestic, behind only Back to the Future at number 1. And then at number 2, just barely beating it, Rambo: First Blood Part 2.
Year of Stallone, baby. Year of Stallone.
85. Yeah, this is peak Stallone. Absolutely. But on the other side, it was not terribly well received. It's got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 38%, which is the second lowest of the series. And it also was nominated for multiple Razzie Awards and won 3. It wins Worst Actor for Sylvester Stallone. He won both for that and Rambo that year. Worst Supporting Actress for Brigitte Nielsen, and Worst Original Score, which I didn't know the Razzies looked at score. I didn't know that they did that deep of a thought.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about the Razzies, but I assume it's like 3 guys in a garage somewhere.
That's funny, Christian, because I thought that was the amount of people that wrote the same 3 songs that were played repeatedly throughout this film. Oh, wait, they were all different, and they were trying to sound like Eye of the Tiger.
Yes, it all the way to having Survivor record one of the songs.
Survivor is, just so I know, because Survivor is In the Burning Heart. That one?
You are correct, sir.
The one that is the most on-the-nose song ever written, where they're literally describing the plot in the lyrics of the song. Rocky's friend is dead, and it's going on a plane to Russia. Who knows what's gonna happen next? It's pretty great. Yeah.
It is, and I have said from the start, one of the things that this movie is, it's not a boxing movie. It's more like an action / musical. It's a
YouTube compilation of all your favorite Rocky moments. This movie predated the longer runtime on YouTube, and it predated compilation videos. Because you're right, Lou. There's so much reused content in this. This should have been just advertised as like Rocky the film experience, and then the audience just pours in there and just watches like, wow, they got new clips of Rocky and old clips. Look, Mom, old clips. And like everybody I feel like this was only meant to get people excited about the idea of a Rocky movie. Like this was an hour-long trailer for an actual film.
It reminds me, it's a clip show. It's the clip show episode of Rocky. Like, every season, it's like we're late in the series run. We're gonna put a plot together, but really we're just going to try to get as many flashbacks as we can.
They had 2 montages that both served the same purpose. I mean, we'll get to it. But
we will get to it. Let's start off though first. So Sam, how familiar were you? What was your first introduction to Rocky IV?
So Rocky IV was a VHS tape. And it was something that was recorded off the television. I think that my dad had done it, and that was honestly, when I was young, because even this film was like a little bit before my time. 85, so I was born 86. But like the thing that I did identify with this film a lot was my love and appreciation for Sylvester Stallone. I've always had like the biggest soft spot for him. I think he's an underrated actor. I think the fact that he got a Razzie for this film is misplaced. There are other Stallone in his over that I believe could be a contender, literally. But like, to me, this film does communicate a lot of what I think is the downfall of Stallone, which is his directorial indulgence. And I think that this film is just very indulgent. We'll get to it, but like, I just think that Stallone, my familiarity with him was that I liked him already, so I was warm to this film the first 2 times I watched it.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I don't know. I'm fairly certain I saw Rocky III first, because I'm pretty sure somebody just told me Hulk Hogan was in it, and I was on board from the jump.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I saw that one first, and then 4, and then as I got older, probably went back in the series. But yeah, no, this is VHS staple. I know I saw it, and then on cable it just ran forever. So no, I have been a fan of the Rocky series from a very small child, and I think this and Rocky 3 were my 2 introductions to it.
This is probably my first Rocky movie, technically.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Christian, you've got a different experience with this movie. Tell us about that.
Yes, I do. So the first Rocky movie that I saw was Rocky Balboa, which I think is the 6th one, where he fights Mason the Line Dixon. And then I saw Creed, which I loved. I think Creed is a fantastic film. Rocky Balboa wasn't that bad either. I guess I've never seen any of the previous installments. This is what I think the first 3 Rocky movies are before 4.
Oh my God.
That Rocky, I think, is just kind of like, I thought he was like mentally handicapped, but he seems to get smarter throughout the series and better looking. And he meets this girl, and Apollo Creed's the champ, and he loses the opportunity to fight somebody. So they pluck Rocky out of obscurity. Rocky doesn't beat him, but he goes the distance. He beats them in the second one. I assume the second one is just a rehash of the exact same beats and plot points of the first one, but just his world isn't as shitty. The third one, I think he's the champ, and Mr. T comes out of nowhere and like threatens to fuck his wife at one point. And then Rocky outsmarts him by getting Mr. T really angry and thereby unfocused. Then he solves the Cold War, and then he beats up the guy that has AIDS, and then he opens a restaurant. That's my idea of how this series goes.
Everything you just said is almost 100% accurate, and still, like, it's jaw-dropping to think. Yes, does he open the restaurant before or after he beats up the guy with AIDS?
Yeah, I gotta get this guy out of my hair. He's got things I don't understand. For the restaurant, I gotta destroy him. I don't know.
So I have to say that I just a quick background. I never saw Rocky 4. I did not have the as it seems like you guys both did, the family VHS tape that was handed down from father to son like a sword in a medieval household. I did not have that. My VHS tape of Stallone was Rambo off the TV, which I thought was the coolest. I never saw 4 because it had so saturated the pop culture irony thing, which has been, really, it's especially when you get to college, it's like really that when you get to roll your eyes the most. And I feel like this is like the very peak, the absolute apex of ironically loving something that I just never kind of saw it. So, but yeah, I saw it for the first time. I watched it at the gym.
That is the best place to watch this movie.
I have to tell you that after my hour of cardio was over, I got more water and then got back on the elliptical again because I had to finish this movie all while working out and had an elevated heart rate. So
the only issue that Christian faced in this scenario was the fact that his constant head bobs backward as he's feeling what Stallone's feeling. It almost got him kicked out,
Oh shit! Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that's a perfect viewing place for this movie, because that's what this movie can be a lot of things. It's a Rocky highlight reel, it's a workout mix, it's
a bad insane film.
Yeah, it's a batshit film. Yeah, because and also it's also the highest grossing sports movie of all time.
Wow.
Beaten only by The Blind Side a couple years ago, but adjusted for inflation, it's still number 1. It is.
No shit.
Yeah, so it had that title for over 20 years. Of all the sports movies, this is This was the peak, folks.
Yeah, and it's strange too because this is the one where he's not beating up a black person.
That thought, Christian.
That's a comedic thought brought to you by Eddie Murphy, by the way. Hey, everybody, watch this Italian guy beat up this black dude.
Black people are either the object to overcome, or they are like the catalyst in which that other black person's friend, who also is black, and their trainer will then go, "It's all on you now." Everything I thought about this other guy, now you're my son.
Well, we just got canceled. So it was a good run, folks. It's his first, and it's interesting because it's the first time he faces an opponent that doesn't like one up him. Like in both, like with Apollo, he loses the first fight and he comes back and he wins the second.
Right.
Clubber Lang, he loses the first fight and he comes back in the second. This one, he just dives right in and just cuts to the chase.
Yeah, I suppose his loss is an emotional loss, literally and figuratively.
Yes, so, yeah, absolutely. Which let's start there, I guess, because. Yeah, the whole catalyst for this movie is the death of Apollo, and that actually plays a huge role in Creed and now in Creed 2. And so that's where, because that was the thing that I noticed watching it for this time around. To think about it in that context, I think is really interesting. But also, am I wrong? But is Carl Weathers like really good in this?
Oh yeah, he's exceptionally good. I was just thinking the exact same thing. Where there's that fucking insane scene where they're watching their old fight together on the couch, and they're just giving us exposition of like, oh yeah, and I remember when you did this. Oh yeah, and I remember when you did this. Oh, that hurt. Oh, that was awesome. And then he gives this kind of wonderful speech about what it means to be a warrior that can no longer fight. And it's better to be dead than it is to be useless, which is like a really interesting kind of concept that he brings up, and I think is kind of delivered by Carl Weathers rather eloquently.
I also remember his delivery when he's looking at the fight, and there's a moment where it's like, "Do you remember how?" I forget the exact time. It's like, I remember how it felt, huh? Like we were in control or something. And he's like looking, and he's almost crying. And the moment almost seems to come out of nowhere, but it speaks to the very desperate masculinity in this film that like everybody's either trying to out pump each other or out like stiff upper lip the other guy or trying to high road everybody else. Like everybody wants to have like the most masculine appearance in this movie.
Oh yeah, it's a 90-minute dick measuring contest.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Every character, even Adrian,
Well, yeah, because even Adrian, by this point in the series, she's flexing too. She's like, she's the one who yells at Rocky, "You can't win." It's like, what are you doing?
Adrian is the smartest and most reasonable person in this entire film, and that includes political leaders. That includes top-tier athletes. She's the only one with any realistic human level approach to anything that's going on, where she's like, no, this is idiotic. Apollo, with all due respect, you don't need to fight. Come on, stop it. You're being childish. That's what, she's the one. She is the God character that is omnipresent, knows how stupid and everybody's weakness. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right, because at this point, Apollo, they don't mention it, but Apollo's probably like 40 at this point. He's pushing 40. That's old for a boxer. I mean, that's, and he's retired for 5 years. Yeah, he's dumb to come back, but yeah, Carl Weathers is good enough to, and the character at least is well enough to find where it's like, it makes sense why he wants to do it. Like and again, I can't believe I'm going to talk about subtlety in Rocky IV, but the look on his face when he hears that they're talking about wanting to fight Rocky, about, oh, he's coming to town, and he's like, he smells the idea and then thinks that, oh, people want Rocky to fight him. He's like, he's got still kind of that chip on his shoulder, which I like. And that all works really well.
My big question about that scene where he listens to the news broadcast is, who plays with their dogs that way? He kept holding on to the tennis ball and like not actually throwing it. And I'm like, how many times are you gonna pump fake these poor dogs?
In the water too, man.
Yeah.
That can't be safe.
Yeah, 3 of those dogs drowned during filming of this movie.
They're just like treading water. I'm like, give him the ball.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So let's maybe get into then to some of our some of our favorite scenes, and I think we'll kind of dovetail to some of this other stuff. So if I mentioned this earlier, so this movie is 91 minutes. When you take out the end credits, it's 87. And but this movie, you mentioned it earlier, is very lean. It's very efficient because in that 87 minutes, we get 2 training montages, we get a retrospective music video, and a James Brown concert.
They do the whole song. I was like, oh, okay, here's the clip or whatever. And then Apollo comes down on a freaking like golden false idol. I forgot that they had Bob Fosse dancers. I forgot that this was actually a James Brown song. You know,
and
like
the only people that knew that James Brown was going to perform were the people that were performing with him and Apollo Creed. Every shot of anybody else watching the performance, including Rocky, is like, hey, I don't know what is this? What's going on? Like, none of them were told ahead of time that James Brown is going to perform, and we're going to have the guy that's fighting come down on a fucking golden calf into the ring.
Yeah, especially, and even Drago, who they tell him to, hey, stand in the middle of the ring under the floor. Don't worry, it's cool, it's fine.
Oh,
and he just...
really quick on that point. First off, Ivan Drago, the only thing that's genetically made up about him is his complete lack of humor. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't react to anything. I think that he might. We were talking about brain damage earlier with the Rocky Balboa character, that this is a man that is very straightforward to the point where you think something is mentally different about him. But there is definitely something different mentally about Ivan Drago. He is stoned throughout like so many moments, and like I almost feel like he gets angry and wants to kill Apollo just because he couldn't understand what just happened in his intro. He's like, trying to exert his rage or something.
Yeah, exactly. And he rises up. Yeah, and like, I mean, come on, man. How can you kudos to him at least for staying, because you've got James Brown, Vegas showgirls. You've got like all sorts of shit going on. And his reaction is to brutally murder Apollo Creed in front of a worldwide television audience.
And the other thing too, like we're talking about wrestling. First off, the ring in from the bottom should have been an Undertaker entrance. I know that they had him come up from the ramp, but they should have the whole ring do it with him. Then the second thing I had was when Ivan Drago cuts that promo at the end after apparently murdering a man. He literally goes like, I don't care if he dies. It's like, we haven't heard this character speak any dialogue. And then he jumps straight to, I'm comfortable with murder, and I can say this on national TV.
I have a theory about Apollo's death, and that is that he killed himself. He decided to die. He made the decision knowing he was going to die and do so in the ring as a warrior, as to live outside of that would be a much more painful death. That he chose essentially suicide by Drago is the way that he decided to go out.
Oh, no, I like that a lot. No, I think that makes sense because he has that moment where, he tells Rocky, don't stop this, because as much as you don't want to see Apollo die, and as much as there's many, many things that could have prevented that death, had they gone like the what was it, the blood sport route where the guy's just, paralyzed and put in the hospital, he could have, that would have morally killed or spiritually killed Apollo. So, I mean, it makes sense that he dies from the character standpoint, but I mean, first of all, that referee got fired, right? There's no reason.
God, yeah. He was
Nevada
I
State.
would imagine he would be an unlicensed. I mean, it wasn't sanctioned by the boxing commission, right? Or it was?
That one was well. It was an
I'm sorry.
exhibition.
I'm sorry. I lost you for a second, Lou. Can you repeat what you just said? I'm sorry.
It was an exhibition.
Okay. Because I think at one point they made a point about saying how it was like a non-sanctioned match. I don't know. I assume at that point you could just get anybody to come ref it. I don't know why I'm looking for reason in this movie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Christian, we understand that you sympathize with the position of the ref. It's hard to make the right call when you're in the middle of the ring. That's why in places like the WWE, they hold those things to the utmost standard.
Yeah, and not a whole lot. And as far as like medical attention being readily available, I also really enjoyed how clearly after a man has traumatic neck and head damage, that Stallone picks him up so he can die in his arm. And like it's the one thing that like I think I probably learned fairly early on. I was like, if someone's hurt, it's like don't touch them at all. It doesn't apply to Stallone. Stallone just fucking picks him up as his limp neck's hanging there.
He's gonna cradle him in the arms that will eventually defeat communism.
That's right.
If that doesn't have healing properties, what does?
Oh, that's a good point.
My last thought on this opening fight is I really want to own all three of those Hugo Boss hoodies that they're wearing. I was like, okay, fashion forward from the past.
That is awesome. That's an excellent point, Sam. Those are beautiful hoodies.
I'm a little chagrined that we're not wearing them for this.
Fuck!
That is a missed opportunity, and I apologize to you, the listeners.
Front row
of this audio podcast.
Hit the funding limit on Patreon. They will. They will get.
Yeah. No, yeah, if it wasn't the wintertime, I'd be sitting here in my Rocky IV Stallone Rocky Balboa costume with the trunks and the robe. But that's maybe that's a different podcast. That's a way higher Patreon limit.
A podcast just for your significant other.
Yeah. No. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is this ref, he gets shoved out of the picture, and he doesn't ring the bell. He decides, I'm just gonna go back. I guess what are you gonna do? And he still manages to count to 10. I mean, I think at that point, somebody's ringing the bell. Like, I know they blame Rocky. Rocky blames himself for not stopping the fight or throwing the towel, but there are hundreds of people there who at some point are just witnessing a murder.
Yeah.
But don't you see, Lou, they were just shocked into compliance by James Brown. They were still recovering from that performance.
Yeah.
They didn't expect like Christian said, the golden calf to descend from the sky. Nobody knows where they are at that moment.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the 80s, Lou. Let them live it up. I mean, gladiatorial combat was normal. I mean, this is the decade that birthed the Running Man. People need more blood and violence.
The 80s were the crucible in which Stallone was forged. You don't just criticize that, Lou. There's far too complex.
Apollo was weaker than we thought. Obviously, Rocky is just the guy. He's the guy.
I have to wonder too if Carl Weathers, after like getting to page 30 in the script, was just like, "There's got to be a way that I can convince Stallone to either A, let me live, or B, let me do a prequel as like the young Apollo Creed." I guarantee you that when he saw that, like, that line of stage direction of like Apollo's lifeless body hangs in Rocky's arms, he just went, "Oh fuck, I don't have a job anymore."
There's always Action Jackson.
I another detail about the fight. Shoot, it just flew out of my head. Something to do with Apollo, because we were talking about. No, I lost it.
Well, so the other part about it too is, so Christian, did you know Apollo dies at least when you first watched this movie?
I did. I knew that Apollo had died. I don't remember if I knew that before or after watching Creed. but that information, that's where I got that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because they mentioned that in Creed. Because what always strikes me as funny every time I watch this movie, and I've seen this movie like I rewatched it for this podcast, and that was like so perfunctory because I could recite this movie in my sleep. But how disturbing the James Brown concert is in context.
Oh yeah.
Because Carl is like, he's having a great time as anybody would. He's like, I get to sing and dance with James Brown.
Yeah, and he's doing that thing where he's pointing at random people with his boxing gloves, which is really weird, including his wife, who smiles, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I guess it's gonna be all right, Apollo."
Yeah.
Minutes later, he will be a dead man.
Yes, he's gonna be like, it is the sharpest.
Within round 2. That's what I'm saying. Round 2 of the fight. They've barely started this boxing match, and everybody's coming down, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, we just
we did not see this coming. We should have done our homework a little bit more. But yeah, that's so it always gets me. There's and you two know, but the listeners may not. There's the musical version of Titanic, the Broadway musical.
Yep.
And we get to do it when we were back at Western all together. And there's this like very happy song and dance that happens like 2 scenes before the iceberg hits. And I'm like, this is our like living in America moment. Like we're all sitting and dancing and happy, and we are all about to fucking die. Like just 2 seconds later. And that's what I think. I think every time I watch this movie is that it's so odd. And the other thing then is when you take, but it's interesting because then I also, for the Front Row Network, I wrote an article about breaking down just the fight scenes. I watched the fight scenes in sequential order with no context, and it's somehow worse because you just like the last thing I see is Rocky like destroying Clubber Lang, and the next thing you see is this just like snuff film.
Yeah.
I want to know from your perspective, Lou, do you think when they wrote this movie, when they released it, do you think the idea of having Apollo die, were they sort of banging on that being like super shocking for the time? I mean, it seems like they telegraph it to hell in terms of the film, but you got to imagine the Rocky audience at that point. Right. They're not thinking in the direction of, well, they're not going to kill Apollo.
No, the trailer actually gives that away.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. The trailer actually, one of the trailers at least, talks about he could have stopped the fight. Now Rocky faces, and so they totally give away that Apollo dies in the trailers. That wasn't like a big spoiler for that. No,
because I think if you wanted to kind of put a pin in the Apollo character, and we were talking about like subtlety, God forbid, in this film, I love actually their interaction in that gym by themselves, and I made the connection at that point. Oh, that's the boxing match that that they talk about in Creed, where it's like, oh, I heard you fought my dad. Like, and I didn't really put those pieces together. Like, oh, we did as an audience member like see that scene, and then it's left to be an open question whether or not Apollo beat him. But I like the idea that it happened because when the next time we see Stallone in the film, he's coming home and his kid's got the big RCA freaking shoulder cam. He's like, hey, that's a little bright, don't you think? And the kid says something else shitty. And I was just like, I said, get out of my foot! Like, I really wanted him to like fly into a rage because he was so upset he lost and just like smash the son's feet, and have it be about like, Rocky, you're losing it. You lost to Apollo.
Yeah, I can I ask, and I just digress a little bit from the Apollo Creed death. Now, I'm not super familiar with Rocky's family and their relationships. Paulie is
Adrian's brother.
Okay, and Rocky's friends with him, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Paulie introduces Rocky to Adrian in the first one.
Okay.
And then Paulie just basically kind of gloms on to Rocky for the rest of the series.
Okay. And I know what his purpose, and I liked him in this movie, and I get his purpose is like comic relief because he's kind of a doofus. That scene where he brings out the robot and it's his birthday,
hold on.
there is no point to that whatsoever. No new information is learned. It doesn't further the plot along. It's just, hey, do you like robots? Hey, why don't you do you like cake?
Yeah. And you actually, you're a wise man, Christian, because that's exactly why this scene exists. Stallone saw this robot at a party and thought it would be cool to put in the movie.
That's the reason?
I knew it.
That is the reason.
I was looking for some sort of honest to God, I was looking for some sort of dramatic connection between the robot in the house and then Ivan Drago as a machine. I couldn't find it. I was like, there's got to be something deeper here that I'm just not getting because I haven't seen the previous movies. But okay,
it is so obvious to me watching that robot debut that the cuts that they use of Rocky's quote-unquote character reacting to this robot is just Stallone going, can you fucking believe I put this Can you believe that I'm so fucking powerful? I could just put a fucking robot in the film,
yeah.
And then I gotta make this fucking actor call it his wife midway through the movie. Hey, not only am I gonna put this robot in there, I'm gonna teach it to speak, I'm gonna give it a personality, and I'm gonna imply that you're such a lonely piece of shit that this robot is your only fucking friend and then later wife.
I own this robot. I own you. I own everything that you depend on. I'm your god.
Because Paulie forms like the Jar Jar Binks of this film, but I feel like in Rocky Balboa and in the first Rocky, he serves much more of a grounding element that brings you back to like this feeling of like, Rock, this is where you came from type thing. He's the pessimist. He's supposed to be the doubter. But here it's like they're painting Adrian as the doubter as well, and like the rest of the world, and it doesn't work as well. Because then it's like, Paulie, shut the hell up. Everybody's saying that about Rocky now.
Right. Well, and I think you're right, but real talk here. Paulie can't believe I'm saying Paulie fucked the robot, right?
Yeah, I would assume there's that smug moment where he changes the robot's voice to the female, and Rocky kind of gives him this look, and he's just like, "It's my wife now." And Robbie's the poor fucking robot. Like, it's probably got cum on it, and the kid's playing with it. Oh god.
And then it's like, Uncle Paulie, why does the robot smell weird?
It's my dried cum. For those listening on the podcast, Lou is beside himself and unable to speak or talk. He's probably just thinking about all the dried cum on that fucking robot.
While Lou's recovering, the other fun part about this robot is that it not only finds its way into this film because of Stallone, but Stallone's fucking with Carl Weathers too, because when Weathers is trying to explain like the reason, like, well, the reason why I need to fight again, and then it's like, hey, shut the fuck up, here comes the robot. Oh, hey, Apollo, turn this robot out. And like, it literally cuts the moment in half, and then the next line that Apollo says is anyway, like
it serves no purpose.
No, it does. It doesn't.
I'm back now, folks. Thank you for indulging that. But yeah, no, you're right. I honestly, I'd love to find out that Stallone didn't tell any of the actors that robot was going to show up, and it literally just rolls on. And those are real reactions from Carl Weathers and Burt Young.
Yeah, that's their alien jumping out of John Hurt's chest. Yes. Everybody's genuine reaction.
Right. Yeah. No. And then to top it off, the robot gets almost as much dialogue as Adrian in this film.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the robot gets like at least three or 4 scenes, and
yeah.
This movie, by the way, I didn't get to it earlier. Out of 87 minutes, it only has 47 minutes of actual dialogue in it.
Wow.
Surprised me in the least. No.
And
No
at
way.
least 5 of that's to the robot.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And then to top off the robot's arc or the robot's assimilation into the
Are you listening to yourself?
it's fully assimilated because the robot is apparently watching the children while everyone else is in Russia.
Oh, yeah. And his 2 friends are over, and they're like, I don't know, playing grab ass with one another, and the robot's babysitting them.
I think there's an entire film that somebody convinced Stallone not to do, which was, yeah, they should box this robot, right? Like, what if the robot starts taking care of my kids? Then the robot marries Paulie. Then the robot starts telling Paulie to move away from me. And then it tells my kids that I'm not really the dad. And then I got to deal with that. So I got to box the robot to get my kids and Paulie back.
And I remember that robot being such a big deal too as a kid. We're like, those things, oh, you can really get those. I'm like, you're not getting we're just like now getting sentient robots that are like this, a foot tall. This thing's as tall as Stallone. And it can be programmed to speak and apparently respond.
Yeah, it could look at you under its own volition. It can come up with complex responses that are,
Sam, you love Japanese stuff. What is the name in the Japanese people that have relationships with robots?
The name of them?
Yeah, like there's a certain social class of people that fuck robots.
Okay. Japan is very advanced in their technology. I think you're referencing the phenomenon where certain individuals marry their video games because of their attachment to the characters inside.
No, I read Robopocalypse. There are several people that have intimate relationships with robots.
Yeah, it's a time-honored tradition. I just wish you'd get with 2018 sexual politics, Christian, because let's be honest, we're all going to be making love to machines at some point in our future. Paulie was a groundbreaker. Paulie showed us the way.
Paulie was the glorious Stein of fucking. All right, I'm done. I'm not doing
no, but yeah, and of course, the '80s. It not only has to become a wife, but it becomes a nagging wife.
Oh yes,
because
absolutely.
as he's packing up and she's getting on him for packing all of his stuff. It's like we can't. Well, our female robots can't even be empowered in 1985.
No, like we talked already about the African American characters and the women and like anybody who isn't Rocky Balboa, they all get short shrift. Like everything is in sacrifice or in service to, Rocky's story. Even though you'd say that they have like great and interesting parts like Apollo, but like and even Clubber Lang is an antagonist. Like. That you give them stuff to do, but it's like, oh no, nobody gets any dignity really, but Rocky Balboa. And I think that was the bigger mistake that this movie made, and why people didn't like it as much is because I feel like some of the nice history that they love so much to talk about and remind us of, it just feels like the characters that you want to see do more with it, like get short shrift, like Apollo's wife, which I'm guessing they're going to make up for in this next Creed film, looking to the future. But like her whole like mental story of like, I'm aware that I'm allowing my husband to go kill himself in the ring is really interesting. And I can't wait to see if they touch on that.
Yeah, you don't see her after the funeral, I don't think, at all.
You barely see any of it. It's just like, and now we stick with Rocky. It's like, we're not going to deal with like the deep emotional aftermath of the best friend of this guy dying. He just moves right into, I better box the guy he couldn't beat.
Well, the emotional aftermath was the music video in his car. And I'm glad that you brought up Bloodsport because the exact same thing happens. After his friend dies in Bloodsport, he's riding in the subway car, looking out the window, and then re-seeing old scenes in the movie play out once again. So,
to refresh our memory for people who forgot what happened 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right. No, I think you're both right there, because that's what's weird is you don't see Apollo's wife or anything like that. But I was on earlier this week Phil Rockwell and I did our first episode of Get Hyped, where we previewed Rocky Creed 2 and talked about the emotional trauma. And he brought up that this is just, we're watching Rocky in a deep state of depression, and he's like lashing out in the worst possible way. Like he's this Rocky 4 should have been Rocky going to grief counseling. Yeah. Or, because he internalizes everything, and he's like, well, I guess I just watched my friend get bloodied in 5 minutes or less. The only way to combat that is to get in the ring and do it and see if I have a better luck.
Yeah, and I guess the kind of interesting thing about Rocky's character, and I don't know because I've only seen a limited amount of it, but I think that that's a really interesting way. Like that's how he has to deal with his problems. He can't go to a grief counselor. He physically has to fight because he's fighting inside, of course. He has to, it doesn't matter what the issue is. They didn't have carrots at the grocery store. I have to fight in order to make myself feel better.
I gotta box I'm gonna
ask a quick question real quick now, and I don't mean to move too fast or if we're coming in this later, but he's fucking Brigitte Nielsen throughout this entire shoot.
Yes, they were married at this time too.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, and actually that character was not in the original script. He wrote her in this. Yeah, again, this is just still like, this is like peak hubris Stallone, 85, okay. And it paid off because this and Rambo were huge hits. But it's like he could do whatever the fuck he wanted, and so he wrote a character in there as a last minute kind of a rewrite, and basically kind of divvied up the lines between her and the other Nikolai, the corner, the manager.
Sure.
I just want to say really quick about Brigitte's performance, which I actually enjoyed way more watching it this time than I had in the past. And the thing that occurred to me was, I love the fact that they give like the strongest, scariest guy like a female mouthpiece that seems like she's so diplomatic and like, no, we're just trying to do this, and she seems so admirable. But a good acting choice that she makes is like, yeah, but when Apollo looks like he's like down for the count permanently, she gets a little smile across her face. Mm-hmm. And I sort of like that interplay where like she comes off one way, and then the other thing too is like it gives the enemy kind of this weird psychosexual nature, that the only threat to Rocky's obvious homosexual love for his friend Apollo is a strong female that threatens to take Apollo away from him.
I'm glad that you brought this up. And I know, Lou, that I come into this show with some weird theories. But I have one in regards to Ivan Drago and Brigitte Nielsen.
Please.
So there's this moment, I think it's during the Apollo Creed fight or beforehand, where the politician, I don't think it's Nikolai, his trainer, but the politician leans over with his cigarette and puts it in her mouth, and she takes a drag from it. I think that part of Ivan Drago's weird training process is that he has to watch her with other men. that the Politburo is fucking her. Hold on, stay with me. Stay with me. And in that scene at the end where he says, "I'm going to do it for myself," and holds the guy by his neck and throws him to the side. I think that's about, no, you're not going to cuck me out anymore. I'm going to fuck my wife now. That's a hypothesis that Christian has.
Honestly, it's not that far off from
Sam's reaction, just putting his head in his hands and just going, "Oh
no." Because before you even finished it, I knew where you were going.
But it makes sense now that I've said it, right? I don't want to ruin the movie for you, but I dare you to watch that movie again and not.
I mean, honestly, the
fucking hurt.
the biggest show of strength that Drago has is when he gets upset at his former handler. I mean, he one-arms a guy who's at least 235 pounds.
Yeah, with a boxing glove. He's not getting a good grip around that neck either.
It's like in Street Fighter, the cartoon where Balrog, the boxer, is shown typing on a keyboard with just his boxing glove. It's like that equivalent. Like there's some weird property that allows Ivan Drago's boxing glove to magnetically lift someone off the ground.
Oh, I
think Drago is awesome, by the way. I think that he's a really cool character. I think that he is kind of like I sense like there's a bit of a scared person beneath this rough exterior, and that he has doubts of himself, but like is like under the threat of violence, it seems like, or his wife getting fucked by other men, has to keep training. And I don't know why. I think that also his hair is the coolest out of anybody in the movie, if I do say so. Every boy in my 6th grade class had that spiked haircut, which I thought was really cool.
I think they show more of Drago's humanity than I remember. When he comes into that arena at the ring, it's like, they told me to come here. All of a sudden, the ring lift up through ceiling. Very confused, you know? Like, he gets up there. Terrible accent, by the way, Sam. He gets up there and he looks around and he's like, he's so like genuinely like a young child, like mystified as to what he's seeing. That I think that gives us a little clue. And, you know, another film wouldn't let us even see him be vulnerable, but we do kind of see that sometimes in weird ways.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna, you know, retcon him a little bit, or you know, give a backstory, you can. It's not a far leap to imagine that he was like some, you know, young prodigy who was like bred for this, like they do sometimes. Like, you know, you hear like horror stories about like, you know, what they would do to train like Olympic gymnasts and things like that, you know, and just deprive them of all humanity as much as they could and jack him up with all these steroids and you know, try to make him just like this robotic killing machine.
Inhuman as possible, almost as robotic as Paulie's wife.
Oh yeah. Also, none of the technology that they use with Ivan Drago exists at all. None of it. There is literally a scene where you see like the inner workings of one of the machines, and it looks like, I'm not joking, the flux capacitor from Back to the Future. I think it's like 2 spark plugs with like kind of like Christmas lights around them that are kind of flickering. None of it's real. None of it.
No, all to measure how much pressure his punch has, which I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the tail of the tape, Lou. It's height, weight, reach, punch pressure. Also, you know, top score in DDR. That's your footwork. You gotta have that.
Yeah, it all comes together, and that's, you know, they go to great lengths to show you like how brutal of a man he is, and how like his punches like 3 times the strength of a normal heavyweight. You see, you know, he brutalizes Apollo in, you know, with just, you know, with brute force. But then it comes to the fight with Rocky, and apparently Rocky is somehow able to absorb the same punches that like Apollo. That's the funny thing, is those same punches like destroy Apollo in a round and a half. Rocky at the end of 15 rounds has 1 cut and like a small little mouse under his eye. Like, he's still like he's got like very little visible damage.
That's why dramatically, and Lou, again, the wrestling comparisons are going to come up, but it is so similar to the only way that you're going to cheer like Rocky's whole character is that he's the underdog, right? But in this film, he's still the underdog, but he's also really stupid. Like, I feel like in the other films and the other fights, Rocky goes out there and you know he's going to get hit a lot, But I think that Stallone just literally ran out there and allows himself to get punched. I mean, even from the suspension of disbelief that you have, if you saw the guy that you're rooting for, and his strategy was like, "Come on, let's see what you got," it's like let him get punched like 16 times, like, and then the first thing he says, like, "It's like there's 3 of them out there." Like, if I was Rocky's trainer, I'd be like, "Where was the game plan? We talked about this. Put your guard up, you idiot."
Yeah, you got to, or just it's real simple. Spoiler alert for the article that I wrote. If you go back, he blocks of all the fights he ever fights. There's only one fight where he ever actually blocks a punch.
Wow.
Really?
One time, and that's the second fight of Rocky 3. And it's because he actually got trained by a real fucking heavyweight. In like Apollo's like, hey, maybe you want to block a couple of these. But by Rocky 4, he's like, no, just gonna just take as much shots to the dome as I can.
It is a boxing match that is completely 100% offense.
Yeah.
There is no defense by anybody.
Mm-hmm. This movie.
That's the most interesting thing about boxing in general is like the shifting strategies from round to round. Like they didn't care to build. I think that's also why people would rank this weekly. If we really look at it objectively, the fight in this, like it's a lot of flash and it's a lot of ceremony. And I think they were just hoping to trade on the emotion of the audience. But from a dramatic point of view, like strategy tried, strategy failed. Rerouting. Oh no, the enemy's coming back. Here's another thing. He gets told one thing and he makes an adjustment. Like there's no push and pull. It's just we wait until Rocky has taken enough punches to where his super meter's built up, and then he decides to start boxing. You know?
Yeah, it has way more in common with an action movie fight scene than it does a real boxing match. It's just these two guys beating the shit out of each other with no real strategy behind it, and you know. Not to say that, you know, a lot of the other movies make those same mistakes, but even like in Rocky 1 and 2, he attempts to have a strategy. And Rocky 3, the fights aren't long enough for you to like see that. But in this one, yeah, it's just haymakers from the jump. Like they shouldn't even be able to put their arms up by round 15 because they've thrown so many punches and like with a 99% accuracy rate.
There's also the last thing about the technical side of the fight too is like emotionally you're Rocky Balboa, and I get that like he's been training himself just like Drago has, you know, or trying to like feel what he feels and get inside his head. But like also this is the guy that like killed your friend. Like I feel like you'd come out of there like raging, and that like the 3 acts would have been Act 1, Rocky's just all offense because he's so upset and he's raging and he's getting out his grief. All these things we're talking about. Suddenly he realizes he can't withstand him that way and he gets beat down. Then he just dips down through 2. Then it looks like, well, Rocky would he'd have to play dodge. Like you'd have to see him running from Drago, and then people go, is this the same Balboa? And then in the third one, he finds his guts and he realizes I'm going to fight it my way, and then he wins. You know, like they don't do any of that structure.
Can I ask a question? So the first one, it's about going the distance. The second one, does he beat Apollo Creed? Because I know in the third one, he essentially outsmarts Mr. T.
Well, the third one, he is about him getting his edge back. Because in the third one, he loses the first fight to Mr. T because he gets soft. Basically, they move to L.A. He gets the mansion. He goes on the Muppet Show.
The Bane principle. Victory has defeated you. Yeah.
And so, like, you know, Mr. T is up and coming and hungry, and he wants it more. But then Apollo trains him for the rematch and takes him to the streets and gets the eye of the tiger back. That's the actual, you know, that's the line of the film.
That's an actual line of dialogue?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
It's an
okay. I didn't know that. Didn't know that at all.
Christian, I gotta lock you in a room. You gotta see these pieces of American cinema.
Yeah, okay. But the second fight, like, it's interesting to me. Like the first fight, yeah, he's fighting to prove something to himself. The third fight, he's trying to get his back. The second one is a little weak because he does win. He wins, and it's a pretty good fight. He wins. He gets up. They knock each other down in the last round, and Rocky gets up at the very last second. It's a really kind of really well staged. But he really only fights in that one because he is broke. Adrian gets pregnant, and he like tries to parlay his newfound fame into like other things, and basically he can't do anything. He's and he's only known to fight, so he takes the money for the rematch because Apollo's got a chip on his shoulder for only winning the fight by a split decision in the first one.
So, but I guess in the other ones, I'd be correct in assuming that he wins the fight because of something that he learns while training.
Yes. In all three of them, the first one, not as much. The first one, he just, guts it out from heart.
Okay.
The second one, he switches and goes from fighting left-handed to right-handed to like as a tactic to outsmart Apollo.
Okay.
And then the third one, basically, he just, learns how to fight with an attitude.
Okay.
He learns how to trash talk.
He didn't learn anything in order to beat Drago. He just beat him.
He just beat him. He learned how to chop wood.
He didn't have, there's no obstacle that he has to, the obstacle that he has to overcome is, I guess, getting in better shape.
Mm-hmm.
But that's...
By the way, we talked about physiques. Batman Forever. The physiques in this film are excellent. Carl Weathers is gorgeous. Stallone is, you could cut glass. He looks so sharp.
Sam, let me ask you. Fuck, Marry, Kill. Drago, Apollo, Rocky.
Don't. Oh man. I'd fuck Apollo. I'd marry Rocky, and I'd kill. Ivan Drago. It's that simple. I got to go back and forth between the marry part between Rocky and Apollo, but hey, at least Rocky's not gonna like selfishly die on me in the ring,
Yeah. But he's gonna sign over, but Paulie's gonna end up, taking all your finances from you. You're gonna end up poor in the streets in the ghetto of Philadelphia. So,
real quick, a quick Paulie moment. Something that I swear to God almost brought me to tears, and I don't have a lot of context for it. But his little speech to Rocky about how I wish I could unzip my skin and be you, which I thought to be, it's like one of the sweetest things that I've ever heard in any movie that I've ever seen. I thought that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and that's a good. Yeah, you're right. That's a good moment because I think that's the best kind of part about Paulie is he's. There's a lot to not like about Paulie, which I think we'll get to in a second. But yeah, like he does have those moments where you realize it is all bluster and it is all, he's got a lot of insecurities, which is why he is the way he is. But no, I that moment and the speech that he gets in Rocky Balboa. When he's talking about how, he kind of expresses regret for how he treated Adrian. Like Burt Young's great in these films. I think he's more trapped by some of the things that Stallone puts Paulie in. Namely a jacket that says with the "Don't tread on me."
Oh yeah, I would watch an entire movie as Paulie as a U.S. diplomat. I think that he's fantastic.
Oh, and he also coins the term, I'm the unsilent majority.
Yeah,
and I thought that was like, wow, Paulie, pretty clever. Like if he would have existed today, Paulie would have been an internet pundit and president.
President Paulie.
Oh my God.
So have we do we really touch on the workout montages? Is that something that you guys wanted to get into?
That's what I want to get to now because we should. They take up half the goddamn film.
Oh yeah, they're awesome. By the way, they're really cool.
So let's do a round table and see favorite montage. Let's start with Christian.
In Rocky IV, my favorite montage.
Mm-hmm.
So the part that I really, really, really liked is, and I thought it was like one of the cooler, sexier shots, and we really get all of Stallone's physique, is where he's doing the back body bend, where he's on the table and his legs are up in the air, and he's lifting his. It's kind of like a reverse sit up almost. I thought that was super cool. So when it transitioned where he gets into where Adrian shows up and then he gets in a beard sexy mode, that's really where I blossomed. As
the Hearts on Fire montage.
Hearts on Fire, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Sam, how about you?
I'm actually gonna go non-training montage and go into Apollo memory montage, because I feel as if this is why they did this whole film was like, let's try to launch like 3 singles at once, and like you said, it feels like a standalone music video. But I think the thing that makes it for me is the dramatic cut-ins to Stallone driving and like contemplating all of this. Again, we talk about like people like, the spurious quality of Sylvester Stallone as an actor, but there's nobody else that you can put in front of a frame that just like owns whatever the stupid thing is that he's doing, to the point where like he's the only one that could make that feel believable. And a guy who has an intelligence level that is all over the map. I think that he brings a lot of dignity and grace and intensity to somebody who, let's be honest, might not have a lot going on upstairs.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You hit the nail on what I think about Stallone too, because I'm much like you. I'm very much a Stallone fan in his film work, because he has his film choices are all over the map, and you can say a lot about him. You can say a lot about the movies he's done. The one thing you can never accuse him of is being lazy or not committing to what he's doing. Which you can say that a lot about a lot of other action stars. You can tell when they're, clearly phoning it in for a paycheck. If you hire Stallone, he's going to show up. He's going to work, and he's going to sell whatever bullshit he's doing, even if, especially if it's bullshit he wrote.
Well, that's exactly it. And I think like his track record is being a little bit of an innovator as far as like an actor that wrote his own material to get his own break, to shepherd his own projects through, to like give a shit about like the continuity of the characters that he made and try to do it in the right way. Like he can have hubris like anybody can. Yeah. Like Tom Cruise running the Mission Impossible franchise. But they're these guys that like he knows what he wants to do and he knows how he needs to do it. And like I think he respects it. I don't think he sells out.
The trajectory of the Rocky series mirrors Stallone's own trajectory so much to me. It's eerie because Rocky 1 is the indie film. No one's heard of him. Much like Rocky, he's given the shot. He makes it work. It becomes this huge deal. So does Stallone. 2, he solidifies himself. 3, he becomes the star. 4, he reaches like the peak of hubris. 5, he's a laughing stock and a joke. He gets a little bit of, and then he comes back for redemption in Rocky Balboa, and then he finally like returns to peak glory in Creed. And I think like that tracks with his like Stallone's entire. That's Stallone's career in a nutshell. Almost like to the dates, you could match that.
And the other smart thing about Rocky Balboa and into Creed is like when we see Rocky as a trainer, he's not just doing his own version of his original trainer. It's like we know that this is still Rocky Balboa being a trainer. He doesn't have to retread those beats. These are new beats, and we as an audience are invested in his well-being enough to be like, please don't die.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm with you, Sam. My favorite is that the No Easy Way Out music video, which is the highlight reel of the whole. Because I'm a sucker for nostalgia, even if it's nostalgia for things I just saw. I remember that. That was 2 scenes ago. But because it does, give you all the highlights of the previous films, which are all great. And kind of that, it's all playing in his mind about all, he's processing everything that's gone on, and then marrying it with Apollo's death. And it gives us one more chance to watch the slow motion hug in the ocean between Rocky and Apollo.
I'm telling you, man, the subtext is all over this thing. But I think what's funny too about the montage is that it's fun to watch, but dramatically, it's so weird because they go from like punching this guy to now we're hugging to punching again to hugging, and I'm like, what kind of feverish imagination is going back and forth? Like usually when you're imagining something, you like stay in one mode for a while, and then you gradually go into like, and now I'm violent, but then I get romantic. It's like I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. We're enemies, we're friends.
Yeah.
Our mutual friend, my old roommate, a guy named Scott Nelson, once showed me in the early days of YouTube a version of the Rocky III training montage with audio only, and it sounds like they're fucking like really hard.
I'm gonna look at that.
Come on, get it. Yeah, come on, you know you want it. Come on, yeah, take it. Oh, yeah. It sounds like they're fucking going at it really badly. It's awesome. I just wanted to throw that out. That didn't really add on to anything.
Also, please, I think we have yet to max out our sexual content for this episode. Please, just
I'm so sorry.
We have earned
I ruined your podcast. It's your inaugural stream episode. And I'm like, oh yeah, he beat up a black guy, and then he's cucking him out with the other guy's wife. And he's coming on his kid's robot.
No,
the spicy takes. I mean, the thing about it though is that it's so easily can be read in that, you know, the subtextual homosexual love way, which there's nothing wrong with that reading because all the evidence is there. The fact that he goes, but Adrian, this is my nature and I can't go against who I am. and then she's like, do you want to be with me right now? He's like, no, I need to be alone and think deeply about my friend.
Yeah, you know, like, and take these two guys with me.
Yeah, also, I need to be isolated in the woods. I would almost love it when Adrian shows up at the cabin in Russia that, like, Rocky goes, Adrian, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
It's like the trader coming out all greased up, like, come on, Rock, we doing this or not? You know?
So this just hit me. And Lou, I think if you ever teach a class on Rocky and or Greek mythology, you need to consider this, to where Rocky is Achilles and Apollo is his dead lover Patroclus, who goes into battle wearing Achilles' armor, is killed doing so, thinking they're killing the champ, Achilles. Achilles flies into a rage and then destroys Troy, who is Ivan Drago behind the Iron Curtain.
See, this is what we bring to Guilty Pleasures. We give you the Greek mythology context and also the sexual context.
That's right, baby.
We've got it all covered.
Because art is sexy.
Yes, it is. And what's fascinating too, I think the last thing I want to hit on, or one of the last things I want to hit on, is obviously the just overt patriotism of this film. Like this, like just the, you know, we've kind of talked about like the over masculinity of this whole thing with the, you know, coupled with like that just aggressive patriotism that's just like from like from the very first scene, it's the two boxing gloves hitting till the end of Rocky being draped in the American flag.
But if you look closely at that moment, Lou, and I wrote this down, when the explosion happens, there's a split frame where you see that the USA glove is intact and the Russian glove falls down. And they are not, like, you have to look at it, but it's there.
Do they just spoil their own movie, is what you're saying? They ruined it.
Look, that's the kind of science that Stallone brings to his features. He's like, I'm going to make sure there's a split frame. You got to pay attention, but it's subtle, but it's there.
Have you, Lou or Sam, I have to ask, have you ever seen the documentary Bigger, Faster, Stronger?
Yes.
I have, yes.
So I thought that did a really interesting job of kind of breaking down American patriotism and then masculinity, especially in regards to the 1980s, in terms of like action heroes. And they use Rocky IV as an example of like, Americans do it, the old-fashioned way by lifting up rocks in an old wheelbarrow and doing push-ups over candles and running up mountains and away from the secret police. That's how one becomes a better athlete. And the Soviets cheat because they take anabolic steroids and they have all this weird fuck technology and all sorts of stuff going on. When in reality, I mean, both sides are incredibly dirty and using drugs and cheating whenever they get the opportunity to do so. I thought was actually fairly enlightening as far as the standpoint of what it means to be an American male. So,
yeah, because this movie and it's interesting. This comes out in the same year as Rambo because both of those movies just really are typical, really just great examples of what the 80s looked like in terms of action movies, in terms of like, and even what the culture was like at the time, because that's like the middle of Reagan's term. He's just started his second term, and he's very, he rides this wave of patriotism and believing. And so Stallone's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a movie where I end the Cold War, and I'm going to make another movie where I go back to Vietnam and I win that fucker single-handedly.
Yeah, I'm going to win the Cold War, and I'm going to start a war in rural Oregon by killing a bunch of sheriff's deputies.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's I think was the other thing, is just this whole wish fulfillment that Stallone, like he had his finger on the pulse of America. I don't know if it's because he just thought that highly of himself, or just because he thought, there's definitely an audience for this kind of wish fulfillment, where America really is the biggest and the strongest, and the, we'll go in and kick your fucking ass, America,
Yeah. I think there's a lot of obviously like conservative politic read on this film. The idea of really othering the other, making the Russians feel a certain way. But the thing that struck me this time, this is one of the things that I noticed this time watching it that I didn't feel the last time, is that did Stallone direct this film?
Yes, he did. Wrote and directed.
Gotcha. So Stallone directs this film. He very purposefully, I think, plays up that Drago and Rocky completely flip sides, that Rocky is just as overwhelmed by Russian patriotism as Ivan Drago is overwhelmed by American patriotism, and that even though they're executed differently, they both serve the same purpose. Mm-hmm. And that equivalency, and then if you think about the speech that he gives at the end, I don't know about Sylvester Stallone's personal politics, but I think like he tries to go for this "we are the world" like kumbaya type thing. Like if I could change, you could change. But as we said in the film, Rocky doesn't learn anything to win this fight. Rocky wins the fight, and then from the comfortable vantage point of the victor, can then say the hoity-toity thing of like, I think we all could change. Yeah. It's like
I had to go through a lot to get here. I got on a plane. I worked out. There we go.
If you took an optimistic view of that ending, you could say like that Stallone's actually making a commentary that we're no different than the Russians if we use our patriotism, and then we will actually end up losing like Apollo did. Like we can't hide behind that fakeness. And I don't think it's that clever. I think it could be there, but he doesn't do it. You know what I mean?
No. He would much rather just bathe in adulation and be draped in the American flag. That's why offer subtle political commentary when you can just beat the shit out of the scary Russian and call it a day. And get he wins over the Russian crowd with his, fighting spirits.
Oh my God.
Which is, that's the other thing, is like, he's literally changing hearts and minds, which is ultimately like the goal. Anytime we go to another country, or anytime this is going to get into a geopolitical discussion, we're on, we're always talking about whenever, you go into a country, your goal is you win the war, but you also want to change hearts and minds. And that's literally what he's wanting, like what Rocky does. He's that kind of a spirit, all in the course of a 15-round boxing match.
That is an excellent point, because he inhabits every aspect of that, every piece of the idealistic vision of like America, the world's, superpowered police officer. Is like, hey, I'm coming in here to kick your ass, but I'm also going to teach you an important lesson, and you'll promise never to do it again. And then the other aspect that I thought about was like, you know, it's just, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Christian. I think it's
no.
I got nothing.
That said, I do watch this son of a bitch every 4th of July. So lest you think I am I am saying all of this lovingly because it is it's an overly patriotic. Its politics are pretty transparent, but I mean still, the son of a bitch works.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to me that's what to really define Stallone in that moment.
I don't think I've seen another movie that is the perfect yin and yang, in the sense that like it's a badly made movie, but holy shit, is it entertaining as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about in the way that like we laugh at The Room and are entertained by that because it's so bad it's good, whatever the fuck that means. But this is a bad and good movie simultaneously, and it boggles my fucking mind because it is captivating, it's interesting, it does have some complex themes, it's got great characters, but it's kind of really poorly put together, and there's a lot of holes in it.
It's sloppy. It is like barely a movie.
Yeah.
If it is, it is 6 music videos, but yeah, it feels like both half-assed and like completely earnest and at the same time. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, the tonal shifts are really difficult. The other thing that I just realized as we're talking about the ending is that I feel like the entire death of Apollo Creed is like utterly lost by the end of the film. Like his whole reason for going in and fighting Drago is that he's battling his emotions about the loss of his friend. And by the end of it, he's so consumed with like, but I'm fighting for America. It's like Rocky himself forgets, like, shit, why am I here? Like, I almost wanted there to be like a stinger at the end of the credits where he's like, yeah, okay, I just got to call Apollo, tell him I want my friend's dead. Like
Man, I never thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Oh yeah, and that's interesting because Rocky never touches on the patriotism aspect until the speech at the end. It's like, and by then he's not like, I want to dedicate this to Apollo, who taught me to stand for something or fight. Like any of that works. But
there's no mention of patriotism at the beginning, and there's no mention of Apollo at the end.
Right.
Yeah. The movie forgets what the heck it's about midway through, and you just get caught up, as if your attention was literally like, oh, but hey, look at this shiny thing over here.
Also, I'm pretty sure that if this were to actually take place, the entire Soviet audience would be like, holy shit, that's Rocky Balboa. Go Rocky. From the very beginning. Same way like when the Dream Team like played the post-Soviet countries or the in the Olympics, and they're like, dude, Michael Jordan just beat the fuck out of us. How cool was that?
Right.
How awesome is that? We just lost by 96 points they just beat Yugoslavia, killed them. But how awesome is that we got to play against Scottie Pippen?
All right. So let's the only trivia that I want to throw in that we didn't cover is that one of the reasons this movie feels a lot different is that it's the only film in the series that doesn't feature Gonna Fly Now or is actually scored by Bill Conti. He was actually busy doing the Karate Kid Part 2. And so he did that one instead. And interestingly enough, the song "Glory of Love" by Peter Cetera that was used in Karate Kid Part
Christian?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The thing that shorted out real quick. Go repeat what you're saying, please. Sorry.
So the song from the Karate Kid Part 2, Glory of Love, that was by Peter Cetera, was actually written for Rocky IV, but Stallone rejected it in favor of Hearts on Fire, which those two songs aren't even like in the same wheelhouse. I don't know the context that Glory of Love would have had. The other thing was that Dolph Lundgren as Drago legit injures both Stallone and Carl Weathers in the film. Carl Weathers almost quit the film after Lundgren tossed Carl Weathers into the corner of the boxing ring too hard. And so Weathers left the ring and said he was quitting, and Stallone had to talk him back in the movie, and it caused a 4-day stoppage of shooting.
Wow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then during a practice round, Stallone encouraged Dolph Lundgren to really go for it, because in the original film, him and Carl Weathers really did connect on their punches. So, Stallone was encouraging in the practice rounds for him to go at it. And he actually and sends him to the emergency room, a swelling around his heart. And it was... So Stallone I don't want to say he nearly died making Rocky IV, but he had a very close call and that's maybe the other reason why in that final fight scene you can see most of those punches are not connecting.
Yeah,
it's very clear that they're nowhere near each other.
It's one of my favorite clips. Sorry to interrupt, Lou, but it's one of my favorite clips of Carl Weathers and Rocky training or like practicing their stuff in the ring. I think it was for Rocky 2, but it's really kind of cool to see them work together in that one.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's take this to the guilt meter on a scale of 1 to 5 shame spirals. 1 being you love this film, you'll encourage people to see it. 5 being you either hate this movie, or if you like this movie, you would never encourage anybody to do it by yourself. Where does Rocky IV fall on the guilt meter? Let's start with Sam.
I'm going to have to give this film a 3 on the guilt meter. I still really enjoyed this movie, but I wouldn't put it as something that I would necessarily tell people to go out for. If you're looking at all the Rocky movies, this is actually probably one of the latter ones I'd have them watch, because I feel like to really enjoy the film, you want to see the first one first, and then, maybe Balboa and Creed. 2 is probably the next one. Anyway, I think that this is not one of the stronger films.
All right, how about you, Christian?
I'd have to say probably a 1. I mean, Rocky IV to me is kind of the granddaddy of ironic guilty pleasure movies. I think that this is kind of like the cornerstone of what fun but irreverent movie watching can be. So I'd have to say, 1, definitely.
Yeah, well, no surprise here. As you can, if you're watching the video, you see my Rocky memorabilia behind me. Yeah, I'm a solid 1 on this. As a movie, as a film, it is unquestionably not great. But I mean, as a piece of entertainment, it's you don't get a lot better. It's at 90 minutes, it's lean, as we said earlier. You can watch it and have fun with it. You don't really even have to pay that much attention because there's not a lot of talking going on. Fight montages are great. It is fun. It's over the top, and that's another Stallone movie, but it is just pure bombast from start to finish, and I adore it.
Real quick,
I
Lou,
likely love this movie, but I just love it.
I have to ask, fuck, marry, kill, Apollo, Rocky, and Drago. Who do you go with?
I mean, I not to ape off of Weller there, but I mean, I do think you kill the Russian. I mean, that's
You guys are just uncultured, is what you are.
I mean, I mean,
Bright is the spice of life, Lou. He's the only.
Okay, let me think about this.
And then let
you know what?
think, Christian, what's your answer?
Oh, clearly I would fuck Drago because he's the best looking. I'd kill Rocky and I'd marry Apollo. Apollo is gonna age better throughout boxing history. I feel like he's got the proven track record. He's just got more attitude. He's got more characteristics. Rocky seems to me to be like a flash in the pan type of thing. Drago's unclipped. You know what I mean? Mix it up a little bit. See what that's.
Here's my concern with having sex with Ivan Drago.
Hit me.
Because I'm gonna go that he is pent up. He's not being allowed.
You don't think that? Yeah, they don't. You don't think they'll let him jack?
Oh no. He's not. He has gotten no release, and all he's gotten to see is his wife being, pounded by the Russian Politburo. So when it comes time for the actual act, and you're there, and he's ready, I must break you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay. All right.
I'm
really glad that we did this today, guys.
I'd rather watch the meta narrative of this film that we've all written than watch this film again. Look, I don't hate the movie by making it a 3.
You already gave it 3. You've already spoken, Sam. Live with your decision.
I think, I just want to say one last thing about it. I stand by it because while it was entertaining, while it was fun, I just think all the parts of it, it just felt like it wanted the same type of earnestness that I feel like as an experienced Rocky viewer, comes a little bit harder. You want to come harder, guys. You want to come harder, and I think I come harder on the earlier Rocky films. That's all I'm saying.
Well, thanks for being on, Sam. Sam's permanently banned from the podcast. It was a good run. 2 episodes. No, thank you. No, hey, listen, you are right, or you have a right to your opinion, even though you can't embrace the movie that ended the Cold War. That's fine. You hate freedom. It's okay. That's fine.
Sam wants to wish the Cold War was still going on. Cold War Sammy is what I call him.
he wished Drago had won, and we were all.
Yeah. You like that, Comrade Weller?
Right. I am not a communist, and I do want to echo though Rocky's sentiment. Look, guys.
Will you vote Democrat?
What?
I said, will you vote Democrat? So that's the modern day communist, Sam. You know that.
That's true. I just want people to have health coverage. I think that just like the end of this film, you guys are on one side of the fence, I'm on the other side. But, there's no reason, guys, why we can't change.
All right. So we're going to leave it at that. Thank you both for joining us on this episode. This is that I both anticipated and didn't anticipate. But thank you for helping us. I think we covered our podcast has now gone almost as long as the actual film, so I think that's a good time for us to wrap it up. So Sam, what are you up to? Where can the people find you?
Well, I'm working on my theater stuff. I've got 2 comedy shows that I do at the Pack Theater in Los Angeles, California. And I perform on second Sundays at 8 p.m. and first Thursdays at 11:30 p.m. The Thursday show is Super Dating Simulator. That's where it's a choose your own adventure romantic comedy that I write every month. And then with my sketch team, Detention on Sunday. And if you want to follow me and hear more about all this, you can follow me at Sam Weller, all one word, on Facebook, or at Crave Sam on Twitter. And thanks, Lou, for having me on again. It's a lot of fun.
Nope. Welcome. You're welcome back anytime. How about you, Christian?
Let's see. You can follow me on Twitter, or let me know how much you disagree with my weird theories about this movie on Twitter at Lapsed Christian on Twitter. If you are in the mood for some scary horror fiction, I have been posting on Reddit lately under the name, wait for it, Thrill House. THRYLHAUS, in case anybody wants to read some scary stories written by yours truly. After the holiday is already over. That's something that I've been doing that people can look at if they want.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well,
You still there? Lou?
I found out hair. So I can't be Lou Hair. So the fake Lou Hair is here to stay, people. But you can also follow us on Twitter, or the whole network at Front Row Reviews with the Z, and you can also follow us on network. And there you're going to get to see all sorts of everything that we've got going on, including a Facebook poll up right. If depending on when this drops, because in December we've got it's Christmas time around the Front Row Network, and we've got a lot of stuff coming up, especially on Guilty Pleasures. We're going to have 2 Christmas episodes for you, one of which is going to be over the Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause, which we were able to get Amanda Hasica from the Disneyland Foodies to do that one. The next one is a little bit different because we have a Facebook poll that might still be up if you're listening to this. So go to our Facebook page between 2 Netflix original Christmas movies, neither of which I've seen, but both of which I'm pretty sure fit the bill for Guilty Pleasures. One being the Princess Switch, starring Vanessa Hudgens, as herself and a twin, it looks like. Not sure, but it's her and Vanessa Hudgens with an English accent. And then starring Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. So go to
I got nothing. I don't know if anybody else.
So you're there. Did I cut out on you?
Yeah, I broke up on my end. I don't know if anybody else could hear me.
No, it's been breaking up on my end too, but I think it's mainly Lou, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you. I think you concluded your sign off already, Lou.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna just reset that real quick,
Yeah,
and then
sure.
we'll get to the end here. Okay.
Okay.
And as always, you can find me on Twitter at the fake Lou Hair, and you can find the Front Row Network on Twitter at Front Row Reviews, and also you can go to our Facebook page, the Front Row Network, and depending on what time you're listening to this, there is a Facebook poll up for what's going to be one of our 2 Christmas episodes of Guilty Pleasures. One of which, option 1 is going to be the Princess Switch, starring Vanessa Hudgens. This is a Netflix original that is dropping in November. And the other is another Netflix original, The Christmas Chronicles, starring Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. So either one of those movies, I'm sure, will be perfect for Guilty Pleasures. So you can go to our Facebook page and check out all the other shows that we're doing and get updates on what we're up to, including our brand new show, Get Hyped, which dropped earlier in this week, or depending on when you hear this, dropped around the 19th, where we preview Creed 2 and talk about all the things that we're looking forward to and get hyped for that movie. And you can see all of our other shows there. And as a reminder, you're listening to us on the Guilty Pleasures feed. Please subscribe, rate, and review us. It really helps gain visibility. And if you write a review and request a film in that review, we will do it. We will take requests. We'll do whatever movie you want us to do. We're not above it. So please go check that out. Also, you can go to our website, thefrontrowmoviereviews.com, and you can catch my power rankings of the Rocky Cinematic Universe and some other things that we've all been working on. So lots of stuff going on in the end of November and the month of December. So please follow us, check us out, and make sure you comment on our Facebook page about this episode, about your wild theories about robots and Greek mythology, and that, please keep that safe for work, though. This, just, make sure we keep it, somewhat G-rated for the kids. But anyway.
No.
So thank you for joining us. And as always, for the Front Row Network, I'm Lou Hare.
I'm Christian Krausby.
And I'm Sam Weller.
And as always, we'll see you in the front row. It is stuff. We're on. It'll stop eventually.
Is this how you insert malware in all of our computers, Lou, so you can watch us whenever